Welcome to the Chief's Pour. Buckle up and get ready for the ride.
Hey, it's old Big Chief from the Whiskey Trip, and this is the Chief's Pour. Before we get started, I wanted to give a big shout out to my buddy Ken Hemingway for sharing this bottle with me today. I am putting it out there for everybody. One of the best things about the whiskey journey isn't the bottles we find, it's the people we meet and the friendships we make along the way. Ken, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for giving Big Chief the opportunity to put this one through the Chief's Pour. And while we're talking about bottles being shared, I want to put something out there for distilleries and whiskey brands watching. If you got a bottle that you believe in, send it my way. I'd love to put more bottles through the Chief's Pour and give folks my thoughts on what's actually in the glass. But understand something, sending me a bottle doesn't buy you a score. Whether I purchase the bottle, a friend shares it with me, or a distillery sends it for a review, I'm going to treat it the same way. I'm going to pour it. I'm going to taste it, and I'm going to tell you what my palate thinks about it. If it's a buy, I'll tell you it's a buy. If I think you should try it first, I'll tell you that. That's the deal. You send the whiskey, Big Chief gives you an honest pour. Now let's get into today's bottle. Today we're heading to the bourbon capital of the world, Bardstown, Kentucky, and pouring a whiskey from one of the more modern distilleries to come into the Kentucky bourbon scene. But before we get into what's in the bottle, let's talk a little bit about who's making it. Bardstown Bourbon Company came to Kentucky in 2016 with a pretty different philosophy. They weren't going to try to build a distillery that looked like it had been there for 150 years. They embraced being new. They built a modern distillery in Bardstown with an emphasis on innovation, transparency, and collaboration while still respecting the traditions of Kentucky bourbon. One of the things that helped put Bardstown Bourbon Company on the map was their willingness to work with other producers. They become known for their custom distilling, along with their Discovery series, which showcased blending, and their collaborative series, which explored finishing whiskey in barrels from other producers. But there was something happening in the background. While people were drinking those blends and collaborations, Bardstown Bourbon Company was laying down its own whiskey and waiting for it to mature. I got to see that firsthand. Eventually, that led to the Origin series, their line of whiskey distilled, aged, and bottled right there at Bardstown Bourbon Company. And that's important with today's bottle because this isn't somebody else's whiskey with a Bardstown label on it. This is Bardstown's whiskey. What's in the bottle? This is a high wheat 6-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon. It's 106 proof. And the mash bill is 53% corn, 39% wheat, and 8% malted barley. That's what immediately grabbed my attention to this bottle. I just knew I had to have it. 39% wheat. The Wheaty King of Kentucky had to taste this. Nearly 4 out of every 10 parts of grain going into this recipe are wheat. Most bourbon only needs to hit that minimum 51% corn, so Bardstown is using almost all of the remaining grain bill to load this thing up with wheat. They also say they use a low barrel entry proof with this expression designed to pull more wood sugars from the barrel. So now we've got a 6-year-old 106 proof Kentucky bourbon with 39% wheat. And the suggested retail price is $49.99. Now you've really got Big Chief's attention. So let's get into the glass. I poured this baby right here in my rocks glass. Man, that is absolutely beautiful. The nose is a little bit more subtle than I would expected from something setting at around 106. Getting a little bit of that warm honeysuckle that I love, hibiscus tea, and toasted peaches. It's sweet, floral, inviting, but it doesn't jump out of the glass, beat you over the head, right? It's almost like the nose steps back and says, just wait until you taste it. Because of that, I'm going to give it a 23 out of 25 on the nose. Let's taste this baby. Now we're getting somewhere. Yeah. This has a very nice pop of spice and cinnamon right up front. Has this little bit of bite on it when it first hits your tongue. And then the wheat starts doing its job. Everything begins to soften up a little bit. I get a little bit of raspberry tart on this for some reason, followed by some toasted pecan. It's got this nice underlying sweetness. You've got the sweetness from the wheat, but then there's enough spice and proof behind it that the whiskey never becomes flat or one-dimensional. That's something I really like about this bottle. Sometimes people hear wheated bourbon and immediately expect soft and sweet. This has that sweetness, but at 106 proof, it also has some backbone to it. There's enough punch here to remind you that you're drinking a bourbon without the alcohol overpowering everything else. For me, the Palate is the star of this whiskey. I'm going to give it a 32 out of 35. Let's go ahead and give it a finish, huh? That finish lands in that medium, almost going to long range for me. I'm getting more of those toasted flavors, especially toasted almond and toasted nuts. It's warm and pleasant, but then it begins to fade. That's probably the one place where I wanted just a little bit more on it. I wanted it to linger a little bit longer. With how much flavor I got on this palate, I wanted that finish to hang around and ride with me for a little bit longer. But here's what's important, right? It leaves me wanting another sip. And that's never a bad thing. So I'm going to give it a 22 out of 25 on the finish. Let's go ahead and finish this thing up, shall we? Now, putting it all together, we got a 6-year-old bourbon, 106 proof, 39% wheat, and MSRP around $50. That's a hell of a combination in today's bourbon market. Could the nose have been a little bit bigger? Sure. Could the finish have hung around a little bit longer? Absolutely. But once the whiskey hits the palate, it delivers. There's plenty of flavor, enough proof to give it some character. And at $50, I don't feel like I'm paying a premium just because somebody put the word limited on the label. So I'm going to give it a 13 out of a 15. So let's go ahead and get into the chief score. For the nose, we gave it a 23 out of 25. The palate, a 32 out of 35. The finish, a 22 out of 25. And overall, a 13 out of 15 for a 90 out of 100. So Bardstown Bourbon Company High Wheat comes in at 90 out of 100 for the Chief's Pour. And now we've got one question left. Try it first or buy it. For Big Chief, this one's damn easy, right? You know what I love. I'm going to buy this bottle right here. At around $50, I'm buying this bottle all day, every day. I got to stick it up there in my shelf. If I see it sitting on the shelf around MSRP, I don't need to find a bar and pay for a pour first. I'm taking one home with me. You're getting a 6-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon at 106 proof with one of the more interesting high wheat mash bills I've come across. More importantly, I like the whiskey in the glass. That's the ultimately what matters, right? Bardstown Bourbon Company may not have generations of history behind its name like some other Kentucky distillers, but They're writing their own history right now. And a bottle like this shows you can respect Kentucky bourbon traditions without being afraid to do something just a little bit different. One last thing again. Thank you to Ken Hemingway for sharing this bottle with me. That's what the whiskey community is supposed to be about. Good whiskey, good friends, and sharing a pour. Remember, this is my review for my palate. I gave the whiskey a 90. That doesn't mean you're going to get a 90 out of it. You might taste something completely different. That's the beauty of a whiskey. The highest score doesn't always make it a right whiskey for you, and the lowest score doesn't make it wrong for you. Don't chase somebody else's palate. Find a whiskey you like, pour it in your glass, share it with some good people, and enjoy the ride. I'm old Big Chief from the Whiskey Trip, and this has been the Chief's Pour. Thanks for taking this ride with me, baby.
I hope you enjoyed the Chief's Pour. Thanks for watching and supporting this veteran-owned podcast. Cheers.